Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to take a look and see how we're able to implement permissions on our model resources. So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, we need to head over to our instance of Liferay and delete any assignments that we have created. Since we're going to be creating permission resources, as I like to call it, these permission resources need to be tied in with the assignments that we're creating. Since any assignments we created before this point do not have permission resources, we're going to want to make sure those are gone. Otherwise, when we do start creating assignments with permission resources, the ones without are going to have some issues. So make sure you don't have any assignments before beginning this exercise. So as mentioned, we're going to be implementing permission resources with our model resources. So the model resources are going to be our assignments. So let's head over to, first off, the Gradebook API. We're going to do a little bit of abstraction when we are implementing our resources, whether portlet resources or model resources. We're always going to want to refer to what it is specifically that we want these permission resources to be attached to. Since we're attaching them to assignments or to a specific portlet, we want to define the name of those things. So we're going to create within the Gradebook API a new class. This class is going to contain the strings or the names of the resources that we're going to be referencing. So let's head over to Gradebook API, right-clicking source main Java, heading over to class, and the name of the class will be Gradebook Constants. Once you have that, go ahead and click Finish. Let's head over to our materials and we'll copy the first snippet. So this time around, we're going to have the name of our resource name. Notice the name here, Liferay Training Gradebook Model. This is my indicator or kind of my clue as to what we're going to be doing next. So it looks like we're going to be handling the top level actions, but we'll see. Maybe things are going to be a little bit different. So you'll notice that I did not specify a specific package. Since the snippet had the package within it, I can highlight the error and then select Move the Gradebook Constants class to the package that's designated like so. And once you do that, you'll see that the errors resolve themselves. Okay, now that we have this class here in its own package, we want this class to be exported. So we've seen this before. Let's head over to our bnd.bnd and specify that that package, Gradebook Constants, is to be exported within the OSGI container. So over here in Export Packages, you can click on that green plus button and then head over and select Constants like so. Once you have that selected, you can go ahead and click OK. So this part was more of an optional step just to try to keep our code nice and dandy. Let's make sure to save along the way. Now, next thing we're going to be doing is defining our permissions, right? So we're going to define what is our model resource and what type of actions do we want to be able to perform on it, and what is our widget resource, but that part will come a little bit later. Let's first focus on defining our permissions for our model resource. So the model resource, again, is our assignments, and our assignments are over here in the Gradebook-service. Once you're here in Gradebook-service, we're going to head over to source main resources, and we're going to create a new folder within source main resources. So right click it, head over to new, and then we're going to select folder. We don't see folder here, so I'll go ahead and select other. In the wizard, you can type folder, and then under general, you should have folder. From there, we'll go ahead and select next, and we have to give this folder a name. So the name of the folder is going to be resource-actions. Make sure you have the S at the end since we're defining more than one action. Once you have that all taken care of, go ahead and click finish. Now that we have a resource-actions folder, we're going to create that default.xml inside of that folder. So we'll right-click resource-actions, heading over to new, followed by file. The name of the file will be default.xml. So once you have that, go ahead and type it out and click finish. Now that we have the default.xml, let's head over to the source view. We'll see that it's blank. So we'll be replacing, or rather adding, our next snippet into our default.xml. So I'll go ahead and copy and then paste here in my default.xml. So again, we don't want to go line by line, but I'll highlight the main ideas and the main details of this default.xml. So as always, I always like to highlight up here at the top with any XML file. If you're new to Liferay or you're just curious, you can always head over to the DTD and take a look and see what can be defined within our XML. You can hold down the control key and then highlight the DTD like so, and it should open up. So we see we're defining a model resource here on line number 4, and in line number 5, we're specifying which model resource we're talking about. Again, we talked about 2 different types of actions within our lecture portion. We have a top level action, and then we have the action that is specific to the model resource. Since here on line number 5, we're not specifying which model resource, this is my indicator or the hint that this is going to be a top level action. So an action that is not performed specifically on in this case, model resource. We're going to be defining, hey, where are these model resources going to be referenced from? It's going to be the gradebook portlet as we see here. And then as we look further down, we see the type of actions that we can perform, or that we're defining that we can perform on the resource. Again, these action keys can be anything you want. Liferay does account for a couple of common ones like add, delete, permissions, and so on. But typically speaking, these action keys can be whatever you want, so long as you remember what you defined and you stay consistent. So if I wanted to say recycle instead of delete, I could define that here within our default.xml. I just have to keep that in mind and stay consistent throughout. Again, we can also create new action keys along the way. We always want to make sure that they are meaningful to us as developers, so that when we ourselves look at the code or someone else looks at the code, they'll have a good idea of what action keys we are defining. As we scroll down, we'll see another set of model resources that's being defined. Here we'll see that the assignment is defined. So this is my indicator that the type of action is going to be specific to the assignment itself. We'll see here on line 26, hey, which portlet is the assignment going to be referenced from? Gradebook portlet. And then from here, we define all of the different types of actions that can be performed on the assignment. You'll see there are a couple that are not defaulted by Liferay, or Liferay does not know about, like grade submission, like add submission. These are our own custom action keys that we are defining. We can also define what types of actions that the guest role can never have. If we programmatically remove them using that guest unsupported, then there is no way through the UI that the guest role will ever be able to have these actions. So keep that in mind. It's a very powerful feature, but if we ever foresee a reason to have a specific action, we may not want to completely remove the guest ability to have that specific action. Okay, very good. So we've defined our different types of resources and the actions that we're able to perform on those resources. Next, we need to let Liferay know that we've created this default.xml file, and where is it? So let's go ahead and do that. So we're still here in the gradebook-service module, and we're going to be creating a new file within the source main resources folder. So let's right-click source main resources, heading over to new. We don't see file, so I'll head over to other. Here in other, I'll go ahead and select file, followed by next. The name of this file is a legacy name, so it might seem a little counterintuitive to name it this, but just keep in mind the name comes from Liferay Legacy. So the name of the file is going to be portlet.properties. So once you have that file named, go ahead and click finish, and we'll see our new file portlet.properties at the same level as service.properties. From here, we can head over to our snippets, right? No need to typo anything. I'll go ahead and copy those snippets and then paste those right there. So we're letting Liferay know, hey, I have a file called default.xml. It's located in the resource actions. We're configuring this for this property, letting Liferay know we're defining permissions. As you can see, since this is a property, we could technically put these things anywhere, but this is Liferay convention to have a resource-actions folder and a default.xml. If you really wanted to, you could put this anywhere, call the file whatever you want. But again, we're sticking with Liferay best practices here. Okay, next step is implementing permission resource management. Right, so we have the infrastructure to define our resources within that default.xml. We're letting Liferay know, hey, we're defining our permissions in this default.xml. And then finally, the last step that we need to go through is actually creating what I call the permission resource. So the permission resource is what's going to be used to keep track of permissions for a specific entity. In this case, we want that entity to be our assignments. So for every assignment that is created, it'll have this permission resource attached to it. To me, this sounds very much like functionality that we would go through as we are creating or adding brand new assignments. We know that the add assignment method was a method that we implemented within our assignment local service impl. So let's head over there and make a few adjustments to that file, assignment local service impl. Again, feel free to use Control-Shift-R and type in ALSI to navigate there much easier. Speaking of easier, we're going to head over to our snippets and we're going to replace the whole add assignment method. So I have that copied. I'll find the add assignment and I'll go ahead and get rid of it. So I always like to delete it just to make sure I deleted everything properly. Don't want to accidentally delete a squiggly bracket that I didn't mean to. We've seen this method quite a few times, so we won't go through every single portion. I just want to highlight specifically the change that we made. And the change is a little bit further down. So let's see here. So this service call here on line 111 is what's creating the resource that's going to be attached to the assignment. You'll notice in the code, it's just resource, since we have portlet resources, model resources, and then this resource here, I always like to call it a permission resource, just to be able to differentiate between all of these different types of resources. So here we're creating the permission resource that's going to be attached to the assignment itself. Similarly, whenever we delete an assignment, we're also going to want to delete the permission resource that's attached to it. We don't want any junk data within our database, these floating permission resources, if we don't delete them. So we're going to make sure that we're deleting the permission resources as we're deleting the assignment. We have not implemented a new delete assignment, right? We're leveraging the existing one. So no big deal. So let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit. In our snippets, we're going to copy the delete assignment. So we'll head over to our assignment local service impl and then add our new method. I'll add it below the update, but feel free to add it wherever you'd like. You'll notice that there's an error on the delete assignment. First thing we want to do is make sure our imports are resolved. So we'll use Control-Shift-O and then save the file. You'll notice that the error is still there. It's because we are overriding the existing delete assignment. This error will go away once we run Service Builder. So we have a few more steps that we need to take care of before we'll call this exercise finished, but we'll go ahead and wrap it up for this video and we'll continue on with this exercise in the next video.